There's a book called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter Goodwin Woodson. He's a Harvard-educated historian, and the reason he wrote the book was that he, quoting him, blacks were being culturally indoctrinated as opposed to being taught about who they were and where they came from. And so he decided that there needed to be a week every year that celebrated Black history, which has, of course, turned into a month. But that week he chose was Valentine's Week. He wanted it to be about love. He wanted it to be about the truth. And I love this, the idea that blacks were being culturally indoctrinated as opposed to being taught who they were and where they came from. Does that sound like any other group of people? Maybe all people everywhere being indoctrinated into what the world is telling us as opposed to celebrating who we truly are. And you know who I know we are. We are the very expression of God. We are. That is who we are. We are not sinners waiting to be reborn and all of a sudden saved. No, I know who we are. So it was so great to look this up. You know, Billie Holiday sang God Bless the Child. I will say probably not as well as Carol, but she had her own spin on it. And the great thing about Black History Month is that it celebrates, and I'll use the words they used, the Negro's contribution to what this country is. You know, they talk about, in Black culture, tracing your roots back to see, were you one of the history, or do you have the lineage of someone who was taken out of their home and brought to a country to be slaved? But our minds are done. Our minds have that happen to it often, where our minds get taken out of what we know about ourselves and thrown into something that is nothing more than a distraction from who we truly are. So one of the things they do in Black History Month, we should all do, is remember some of the greats in Black history that did great things for us. So I have the list here that has come up this month. Harriet Tubman, right? Okay. Josephine Baker. Because, you know, she wasn't just this amazing singer-dancer. She was an activist, a really vocal activist. Well, that's good, a vocal activist, a singer. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks. I love Rosa Parks. I would so be that little girl that would go to the front of the bus and just say, "Move me." Clearly. Mary Jackson, Maya Angelou. Who says, when someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time. And it's that first time I have to really wrap my arms around. Colin Powell, Oprah Winfrey. You knew she was on the list, right? And the last person on the list, Barack Obama. So the question I have for you is this today, as we do celebrate Black History Month. I want you to ask yourself, who are you and where do you come from? Who are you? I mean, that's a big question. Who are you? I mean, Carol. Who's Carol? Yes, Carol's Black. Carol's the singer. Carol's the snap and bend girl from Legally Blonde. Did you all know that? No. Oh, yeah. Watch the movie. She's the girl in the movie that snaps and bends. Isn't that correct? That is correct. But that's not only who she is. It's just one of the fun things of who she is, right? So you all are things, but who are you? I mean, who are you really? And more importantly, where do you come from? Where were you raised, Carolyn? Alhambra? Right here? Okay, so that's, where were you raised? Here in LA. Jesus, God. Is anybody not from LA? Where'd you, Wisconsin? New York. New York.
Minnetonka, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, yeah.
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Saginaw, Michigan.
Michigan.
Brooklyn.
Liza?
San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, so where? Hollywood. Thank you. Let's bring it back. So where are you from, Maryland? Westlake?
Westwood.
Westwood. Oh, wow, okay. Bill?
New Jersey originally.
Where in New Jersey?
Essex Fells, just outside of Newark.
Yeah, right. I know Essex. Yeah. Ann, you raising your hand?
Little Rock, Arkansas.
She's just a little girl.
I'm just a little girl from Little Rock. It's not little girl. I'm just a something from Little Rock. So, yes.
Iran.
Okay.
Thank you. Iran. Where in Iran?
Tehran.
Tehran?
Tehran,
The capital. Oh, Tehran. Tehran of Iran. Okay. And yet, is that really where you come from? Ultimately, before you were particularized into this beautiful form, what were you? Energy, consciousness, love, whatever. What'd you say, Joe?
I said
A particle, exactly. Not just a particle, all the particles. So if you were to remember where you came from and knew that where you came from was the infinite, how different would your life be? If that's what you identified as, nothing else. Although you still give reference to Iran or Minnesota or Michigan or wherever it is. So Ernest Holmes said this. Oh, go ahead, Mike. The only reason man is limited is that he has not allowed the divine within him to more completely express. The only limitations we have. This is Prosperity Month. Prosperity is about the infinite capability you have to have anything and everyone and every experience you could ever want, right? So Ernest Holmes is saying the only reason we are limited is because we haven't allowed our divinity to be more completely expressed. That means we haven't really come to terms with who we are and where we come from. Maybe we should have a month every year that celebrates our divinity. Wouldn't that be cool? We're kind of in it in the Christian world because it's Lent. I'm trying to make that make sense to me. Lent. I always say Lent means let's end negative thinking. Wouldn't that be fun to do this month as we move through this month? So Ernest Holmes also said this. Go ahead, Mike. Know that your individuality is indestructible. Your individuality is indestructible. So this has been a very, very challenging few weeks for me. I'm not the type of person that easily deals with what could amount to character assassination. It's very difficult for me. Mostly because I pride myself in being so transparent. I am what you see, and what you see is who I am. That's how I live my life. So I, of course, this week decided to go and look for refuge and look for some peace of mind in the writings of Ernest Holmes. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's really what matters. But you know what really did it for me? More than any of these writings, this quote really worked for me. I know that your individuality is indestructible. Who you are is indestructible, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of you. As Terry Cole Whitaker says, what you think of me is none of my business until it becomes my business because I have to defend it. But truly, at the end of the day, it needs to be none of my business. But you know what really did it for me? Watching The Fabelmans. I watched that movie and I was like, wait a minute. Your life is about creativity. You're that little boy with the camera, who is Steven Spielberg, but you are that energy, that force that just wants to create and do good and have fun times like we had Friday night here with Soul Immersion. That's who you are. Don't get dragged into what anybody else wants you to be concerned with. So this is really important for all of us. Know that your individuality is indestructible. You are not what anyone else says. You are who you know yourself to be. So I want to give you a definition of prosperity. Go ahead, Mike. Prosperity, the condition of successfully thriving. I'm going to ask you, I want you to raise your hand if you 100% believe that you are successfully thriving. Okay? Now, those who did not, first of all, if you raised your hand, yay, and there's still more to thrive into. And if you didn't raise your hand, the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? Because if prosperity is the condition of successfully thriving, it means, come on, we're all of a certain age here.
Not all of us.
Was that you, Tiffany? Okay, so you're in your 40s. Good for you. How many people are less than 40? Oh, Emily. Genevieve. Yeah, but you're close. So you're not close at all. I mean, what are you, 23? It's good. You're always going to be the baby in this room. Well, not always. Were your kids here today?
Yes.
Good. They'll be outdoing you in a minute. So the idea of successfully thriving is not limited to your age. You're aware of that, right? I think all of us, many of us, get to a certain age and think we've done it. Or we're living on the past, or we've set a fixed income. How many of you are living on fixed incomes? Don't raise your hand. Don't admit to this. Because you know my answer to that in terms of prosperity. If you're living on a fixed income, you fixed it. So unfix it. Right, Joe? There is, I love how you said that. Right. Always be open to more and more and more, successfully thriving. And there's this great quote. So, not yet, though, Mike. So, yesterday, a very, very dear friend of mine, who's also a practitioner, called me, dealing with this incident. You know, and everybody comes out of the woodwork when you hit a stop for a moment. Everybody wants to know what's happening, and I'm just not that type of person. I'm also really, really hyper vigilant against gossip. I'm so not interested in gossip. I don't want to hear it, and I certainly don't want to be a part of it. But, you know, I for the last couple of weeks, I've been the subject of great gossip, great conversations, I'm sure. Those that don't like me are thrilled. Those that do like me and love me, they're calling to support me. So, you know, and I stand there going, let's just be done with all of it. But I want to say this. There is this inner knowing inside. And this friend called me and said, I just want to ask you a question. How do you stay on principle in this situation? And I thought for a minute, and this is a really talented practitioner. He says, I just don't know how you can stay on principle in this situation. And I said, well, you know, my mentor's mentor, Dr. Walker's mentor, Robert Bitzer, said, never step off principle, even on special occasions. And I actually, right, Peggy? Yeah, and there are this is a special occasion. This could be a special occasion. But I actually believe what I teach. I actually stand in the truth of what this teaching says. And I stand under this. I came up with this for a reason, to give myself a bar to never stoop under. So how do you stay in love only, even as a lot of non-love is coming your way? I guess you have to ask yourself the question, which is more powerful, love or its opposite? The answer is love. Now, that doesn't mean I'm having people to dinner that I don't want to have dinner with anymore, but it does mean I have to come from love. Love only. So the condition of successfully thriving, do you know what, I just finished CPR. Do you know what love does? Love is a prosperity magnet. It brings everything into your orbit. If you can stay in the consciousness of love only, everything is resolved. This next quote, go ahead, Mike. Mark Twain said, prosperity is the best protector of principle. Now, I just want you to think about that for a minute. how can you stay on principle? You know how I can stay on principle? By thriving, by staying in this teaching, knowing this teaching, living this teaching, and not stepping off of it, even on special occasions. That's the best protector of principle. That's how you live on principle. So, also, this is a quote I found that's helped me a lot. Next quote. This is Henry David Thoreau. It's never too late to give up our grievances. You know, in a situation such as mine, which some of you may not still not know what we're talking about here, but
Is that a joke how you spelled Henry David Thoreau?
Thoreau. Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau. Yes.
I just thought it should be pointed out.
But I'm grateful for you to pointing it out to all of us. So I thought I found the perfect picture for this. Don't you love her? Right? She has not given up one grievance at all. It's never too late to give up your grievances. There always seems to be a right and a wrong in these situations. And I'd like to actually say that's where grievances are born, in the judgment. For me, it's just, if I can open my heart and let it all go, now I'm living in a prosperous world because my heart is free. It is full of love, and the grievances need to just go away. So, as I said last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think, never go below the bar you've set for yourself. Would you give me the next slide? That is me on the stage of the Minskoff Theater, playing Riff in West Side Story, because I couldn't let that go by, that you might not know this. Never go below the bar you've set for yourself. Prosperity consciousness demands that you stay in the flow of who you know yourself to be, regardless. So when I left here a few weeks ago, I couldn't have imagined all that has transpired in these last 3 weeks. But I can tell you this, I remember who he is. I remember who that 25-year-old boy is, because I have a son who's 23 years old, who last night was in the garage building a set for his first movie that he's directing. And as I came home from a well-deserved massage, I saw him in the garage, and I remembered that 25-year-old. And I saw him, and he was so excited to show me this flat that he had made, which was really hideous. But it was exactly what he wanted. Perfect he's doing a horror film. And it was just this, and he was so excited that he had made this flat. He goes, "Dad, I have never worked this hard. I have never spent this many hours doing anything." And I was like, "Well, clearly you haven't spent it on math." But all of these things, and he said, "But it doesn't feel like anything. It feels like I have more energy to do like 10 more of these," which I had to remind him my car needed to go in the garage, so move the flat. And that's why I pulled this picture up today. Never go below the bar you've set for yourself. That 25-year-old swore he would star on Broadway. And at 25-year-old, he did. At 25 years old, he did, regardless of whether he was the best fit for the part or not. And I've had that conversation many times. This 68-year-old, I know who I am, just like he knew who he was, because we are one, as we all are. So, the title of my talk today is Giving Up. Giving up. It doesn't mean throwing in the towel. It means understanding how this universe works. I am here to give. I am here to give every ounce of me to everything I do. And when I give up, giving up means to take myself to the highest level of consciousness and stay there. And don't stoop low. Don't go below the bar of who you know yourself to be. So I invite you to take a look at your life and just ask yourself some questions, Where could I raise the bar? Where could I aim higher? Where could I let go of some grievances and anything I need to forgive, everything. But most importantly, I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know what I'm here to do in this world. And no one else gets to weigh in on that but me. And I'm pretty clear. And you should never let anyone weigh in on your life. Who you know yourself to be needs to be enough. But you do need to be totally, totally embracing who you are. Not where you came from, not what you do, not even if you are the bend and snap girl. Even then, you need to know that who you are is bigger than anything. The greatest accomplishment that you will ever, ever, ever receive is to successfully thrive. That is what we are here to do. We are here to succeed, Dr. Tiffany, and you are succeeding in ways unbelievable. And every single one of us is. But we can raise the bar, can't we? How many people can raise the bar? And it doesn't matter how old you are, even if you're retired. Raise the bar of retirement to something even more exciting and fabulous. At the end of the day, it is about giving up. It's about letting go. Letting go of anything you think about yourself that is not equal to the amazing, fabulous individual that you are, that can never, ever, ever be degraded. Not who you are. Who you are is concrete. You are the very presence of the divine. And it's time, as Ernest Holmes said, to let it out even louder. So the good news is, I am here every week now. And, thank you. And I am about to raise the bar of what the Global Truth Center means in the world. So join me. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.